Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Business Roundtable Podcast. I'm your host, David Carr, founder of Steward Your Business. Grateful to have you here once again. Well, we have a brand new guest on the podcast. I'm super excited to have Claire Hayek on here. Claire, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Great
Yeah,
to be here.
absolutely. Claire and I have met. You might have heard it in past episodes through one of our networking groups, Success Champions Network, which has brought some amazing people into my world. And I've been really grateful to have Claire on here. She has got such a great background, and we share a lot of passion in leadership and team development. And so, Claire, before we get into what I call the meat of the podcast, um, tell me a little bit about, and tell our audience, because I've gotten to meet you and talk with you, but what got you to becoming, yourself? You're a neuro leadership expert, and we'll share. But what got you to this point where you're like, I want to focus on this part of the brain and how we're showing up, and take us a little bit about your journey as now you're the owner, founder of your business, and leading yourself well and leading those that you're working
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short. So I'm an engineer and a musician, and I've had these two careers pretty much I'm no longer practicing engineering, but I worked
with.
20 plus years in engineering firms, managed a lot of teams. I've gone through every single possible scenario when it comes to leadership and teams, and I've really learned a lot because I was out there doing it, right?
Hmm.
And this is when I decided to start my own company because I wanted to marry the whole like leadership, corporate, everything that we do every day
Yep.
with music, the power of music, the arts. And this is combined with the left brain and the right brain when we talk about creativity and analytic. So
Mhm.
I kind of always had those both sides developed. It just happened to be that way. And I wanted to bring them both into the corporate world and see how we could learn from that, how we can combine that and really play at a whole different level, the level that we should be playing at, really, because
Mhm.
a lot of us think we're playing big, but we're playing small. We're not even tapping into 10% of our potential.
Mhm.
So this became kind of my passion. And when I started my company, my sole purpose team building, was really to bring this not only from my employer because I was in engineering, is to bring it to the world and the people who need it, the people that were at that point in their career and they're thinking, how do I find my own voice? How do I be and become that version of me that is thriving, that is happy, that is healthy, that is successful, that is everything I want to have in my life. Obviously, this was linked to neuroscience. The scientist in me, you can't
Yes.
you can't pull that
Yep.
out. Um, and I stumbled upon neuroscience because it just fascinated me. The whole like science behind leadership and human behavior,
Yep.
and it makes way too much sense now, and kind of helped me connect the dot in my life, in my career, and transform my life and my career and my business. So I'm not preaching to preach. I'm literally preaching what I lived, what
Mhm.
I experienced, and I was still experiencing.
Yes.
Mindfulness is a everyday thing, and leadership. This is what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
Um, it takes the leadership, the leader himself or herself, to be anchored and be that version that they want to be before they're
Yes.
even ready to lead. So there's
Yep.
a lot of work, and I know, David, I know you um, you agree on this, and
No,
I think
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you and I again come. It's the reason I want to have the podcast, Claire. Number one, because I think you and I share a lot of passions. I don't know if I even told you this. I have a music background too, but I think the brain works differently. Like you said, right and left brain, right? And you're engineering. I'm in biological sciences, things like that.
There you go.
And I
Yeah.
and right. And so we saw. I think both of us saw the challenge where if you're only thinking one way, it's like trying to access the whole list of our brain, right? And that's why I like wanted you to come on here because I feel like there's a different angle that people may not have heard or thought about before,
Hmm.
and of how about neuroscience. Maybe they've heard that word, but maybe it's kind of new to them. And when you dig into it, like you're saying, and Claire, it's like how you can show up with better mental fitness, better team alignment, and that's hence why you created MSP, for example. And I love that because I love collaborating with folks like you, Claire, and I want folks to hear and listen in today with Claire about how she's been able to do successfully working with. in really developing transformation. And I think that to me, that word is really meaningful because it's not just because I'm not just something being transformed, right? And so you've been transformed. You're saying, Claire, through your own journey, and I'm continuing to be transformed as well. And so this, coupled with this neuroscience of resilience and how you've been able to strategically design and align teams, Claire, I think is fantastic. And I'm super excited for our audience to hear more about that today. Um, so walk us through a little bit, Claire, about your focus with MSP Teambuilding and you talked about your personal journey, if you will, but um, you have done all these things. You've been a trained engineer, now you're a certified neuroscience leadership coach. You're doing this, but talk about where you've seen this, from project teams to boardrooms, how you've helped remove some blind spots. We'll break it down in the podcast or build those teams and do it without burning out. Like people are just like pushing so hard, right? They're grinding. How they've done it
Mhm.
maybe in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to achieve that result.
Mhm.
One of which that I'm always, working with clients is the mindfulness. It's the core. If you're not anchored, if you're not grounded, if you're not self-aware, not self-conscious now, right? Self-aware, mindful,
Mm.
your thoughts, your words, your behavior, your emotions. If the whole machine is just chaotic and working in a fight or flight, how do you want to inspire, lead, motivate, perform, just be happy, period? I mean, you're just literally surviving every single second of the day. So we really start with the core, which is the leader and the team, and talk about our behaviors as human beings. We're not perfect. We all have saboteurs.
Mm.
We all sabotage. We're all, have these fear thoughts, fear-based ideas, and that's really where I bring in the neuroscience and I explain the science behind this, like what's really happening in your brain,
Yeah.
and I teach people to be in their prefrontal cortex, which is really where you're making decisions, where this is the CEO of your life, and this the CEO of the brain in a way, which is the CEO of your life. Because if your prefrontal cortex is lighting up and managing and really being present, then everything is just flowing in your body. So we talk about well-being, health, being completely present, emotionally intelligent, positive intelligence, all these things. I mean, this really goes when you're not being managed by your emotions. So,
Yes.
example, when the fear-based, basically center of the brain, which is the
Mhm.
amygdala, if you're reacting as opposed to being self-aware and like, okay, this is a trigger, and being able to manage that, then you're literally just go straight to the amygdala. Now you're managing with your emotion, actually not managing anything. The CEO is bypassed. It's like it's
Mhm.
random. Right now you probably will blow up, maybe you'll shut down, maybe you'll just leave. It's just chaotic. So more often than not, what we see, unfortunately, a lot of leaders, a lot of teams are operating in fight or flight. So just being aware of this, applying it day to day, giving examples, doing that workshop is really understanding what each team member's saboteurs, how they're sabotaging themselves,
Yep.
how that affects other, how they're communicating, what really motivates them, what really gets them into their emotion, into their amygdala, and vice versa. What brainwave they're in? Are they really just bombarded with negative thoughts most of the time? They're because they're anxious, they're stressed, they're judging themselves the whole time,
Mm.
judging others. Are they, or they're really just looking at the positive side of things, even if it's a challenge. They're more curious about how they can resolve it. So it's all about, they call it mindset, but it's way beyond that. It's really
Mhm.
just understanding how the machine works and being able you have your brain work for you and not against you.
Mhm.
And I teach that. It's like, how do you
Yeah.
get your brain, which is brilliant, this amazing magical thing to work for you so you can be, wow, you can perform at an elite level, um, as opposed to just be completely oblivious of what's happening and just
Well, you're I
live
wanna
it
get that.
away.
Yeah, because you're bringing up so before we can rewire to get it to the maximum of performance or improve the important performance, like you're saying, is what you gave a number of examples of blind spots,
Right,
where
right.
we're just unaware,
Yes.
unconscious, perhaps asleep,
Yes.
if you will, right, to this in our life. And you speak a little bit more because I think this is important for folks to realize because I've done some work research on this, but I want to hear more from you, Claire, as to our brain doesn't want to, right, doesn't want to exude more energy than it has to. So if it kind of like,
Right.
even if these are bad situations, not good things, we've kind of normalized right in our brain, like so we kind of don't even see it anymore. Is that what?
Exactly.
Is that how you're seeing it? Yeah.
It's exactly that. So, whether brain talk or not, okay, you've all noticed that when, we each one of us have a certain behavior. We've been doing it for I don't know how many years, or we've taken on certain patterns, etc. We all have
Mhm.
like a pattern of some sort. And typically these patterns we take them on when we're really young because as a child at 2, 3 years old, we just want to survive. The
Yep.
brain's job is to keep you alive.
Yes,
That's it.
absolutely.
It's
Right.
simple. So it's gonna focus on your strength. Like what are you naturally strong with? So it's gonna use these tools to help you survive and navigate this world that you have no idea what's going on. These people talking to you, you don't even understand the language. You're trying to
Mhm.
survive, literally. But
Right.
the thing is, so this is where our pattern starts forming. So when I say pattern, I go like this with my hands, is because our neurons will fire and wire the more we do a certain thing. So
Mhm.
then, so imagine we're firing and wiring certain behaviors for survival since we're 2, 3 years old, subconsciously, unconsciously, and this is the stuff that we drag on into our adulthood. And now automatically it's like, yeah, but I'm like that. No, yeah, because you've been like that maybe for a long time, but it
Right.
doesn't mean you cannot unwire
Yes.
and unfire these things and create new neurons that will fire and wire together into a new pattern, which is called this is like playing at your full potential.
Hmm.
By
Hmm.
this is how we rewire the brain. You first of all, just being aware of what's firing and wiring and why.
Yes.
And maybe you don't
Yes.
have to understand why, because it's sometimes in the childhood. And sometimes, you don't know, you don't remember. And sometimes we don't want to go there, and you got to be
Mhm.
respectful of that. So it doesn't matter. Just as long as you're observing, you already know. It's like, okay, I'm doing it. Okay, I'm wiring and firing and wiring. That's great. But if you don't want that behavior, then you can consciously, this is the power of the human brain. You can consciously say, okay, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be triggered. I'm just gonna breathe. Just like literally. Instead of react, I really want to react and bite somebody's head off right now, let's
Yes.
say.
Yes.
It's like, no, I'm not going straight to my amygdala. I'm gonna be reasonable. I'm gonna calm down. But you need tools. You just don't, you know,
Right.
have that-
And
you
if
need
you've
those
created,
tools.
Claire, if you've created, like you said, those synapses that over years and years, decades, possibly, and we're gonna get to this because I want to get to this rewiring. But to me, it's like walking a path. You walk that path so many times, it's so worn down, right? I don't know. This reminds me, like, or I've gone on a path. Are you ever driving somewhere and you're not wanting to go there, but you're just like such a pattern. You just start driving. You're like,
Yeah,
where am I going? I
yeah,
didn't want to go there. Like,
completely automatic. It's
yeah,
it's your
automatic,
automatic.
right?
I mean, our whole body, our whole brain is operating automatically. Um, Basically, when you drink, you just took a sip of
Drink of
water
water.
or
Yep.
coffee, or how did it really go down your throat? Which muscles had to contract in order to let the
Mhm.
water? Cells are working to break it down, hydrate. I mean,
Yes, it's
do you
amazing,
think you
right?
are conscious of? I'm going to tell the cell to.
Do this, all this,
No,
right? No.
so but but when we are able to activate the prefrontal cortex in our behaviors in our day-to-day, so we can be mindful of our energy, where we're putting our attention and our focus, because that will create your life, that will
Mm.
create your experience. If you're positive and always take a challenge, like, what is the gift here? How could I do this better? Okay, I learned something. Instead of beating yourself up for a year over this thing and being filled with regret, anxiety, stress, just judging yourself, and why you can just, it doesn't matter. That's like, if you do that, that's really bad, and you're like totally drowning yourself in sorrow, etc. But you could choose to say, okay, well, it happened.
Mhm.
I know better now. How can I take this as a gift for me to,
What a
how do I find the
yeah.
gift, this challenge, in order to turn things around and say, maybe I needed to go through this, and my brain kind of told me, you know, bad, but because you know what, but now that I did that, now I learned something. I'm like, oh my God, I can do this instead. And that taught me not to do it because that will drain my energy and my well-being and da da da. We see that a lot with people that unfortunately get to the point where they get really sick or have an accident and they're almost lose their life, and now they wake up. So the only thing I'm saying is, please don't wait for an accident to happen. Please don't wait for your body to yell at you
Yes.
with cancer or a disease of some sort so you can change and rewire your habit, so you can really be and thrive at the level you should be, like every human being should.
Yes.
So that really, it's as simple as that. Let's not wait for the drama. Do we really need to get to go there? We have that power to do it. We
Yes.
just have to decide.
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned to you before we recorded the podcast, I had another gentleman on our podcast recently, Xavier Serrano. We were talking about that from a medical perspective, like why people delay it. Instead of like, hey, if you know this will actually improve your body, help you be better, have greater longevity, why not? Why wait? Like it's uh there's sometimes there may be some justified reasons, maybe in some particular reasons you're going through a medical crisis or something. I can't I'm bleeding. I need to deal with that. I get that. But,
Mhm.
but like you're saying, Claire, I like to use the car analogy, meaning you could go, you don't have to change the oil every 3 or 5,000 miles. You can go longer. You can go longer on your tires but there's going to be a breakdown at some point. Something's going to
Mhm.
wear out. Why do we want to wait till there's a blowout or a complete breakdown versus stepping back, being preventive, like you're saying, Claire, and start the rewiring process, like you were saying,
Yeah,
like, right?
yeah, yeah. And
So
and
don't
that's
wait.
exactly. And the thing is, what's hard about it, and this is the catch 22,
Mhm.
is that your brain always did a certain thing and wired the same neurons and has the same neural pathways in your brain for years. So now you're going to come and say, well, you know what? We're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. What is your brain going to do? It's going to resist. I mean, it's very smart. I mean, it's
Yes.
just, it's biology, it's
Yeah.
science. It's,
Mhm.
you wire a certain thing. This is how that's what it knows. And now you're telling it, no, unlearn all this and we're going to learn something else. So this is why
Exactly.
it's always difficult and hard to change a pattern, or
Mhm.
remember, like, we all go through this. I still go through it, and I'm a bit more aware of it now. But
Yes.
January, I'm gonna get in shape. We're gonna go to the gym every day. I'm gonna be active. I'm gonna eat better. All these things. It's great. The trigger is January, or December 31st. But the thing is, you cannot unwire and rewire without
Yeah.
some tools. You need to
Right.
help yourself do that. You can have the intention, you make the decision, but then there's a bit of work to do. But it's doable because the brain is neuroplastic and it will go. You could teach it.
Yes,
You can teach it
I love
endlessly.
that, Claire.
It's not
Yeah.
like you're stuck with certain habits. And I love when people say, "Ah, we're all like this in the family. It's always been that way. It's genetics." Yes and no. And it has been proven through research that you can literally turn off certain genes. And I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I really encourage a lot
Mhm.
of people to watch his videos or read his books. I read all the books, and you can literally, by your behavior and by changing your energy and your focus, where you put your attention, and be mindful of your thoughts, you can switch off certain genes. You don't have to go down the burnout. You don't have
Oh,
to go
yeah.
through, cancer, because you have cancer cells in your family. These genes probably will not be activated if you completely change your diet, if you exercise, if you change your behavior, if like there's a lot of smoking in your family, like you just stop smoking. I mean, it's easy to say and explain, but harder to do.
Yeah.
But it's doable. I mean,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
yeah.
And this is why I wanna have you on the podcast, Claire, because and you are both coaches and guiding folks and trying to help them. What I found is, like you said, people might get motivated, like you said early on, like, hey, I'll go to the gym, I'll read a book, I'll watch a video, I'll do a meditation. And we know, you and I know that that's not enough, just a one-time deal. It's you're
Mhm.
creating a habit and a lifestyle and a way of doing this, and you've got a certain tool set and resources that you bring that's unique, which I appreciate. And I want to have different voices here on the podcast so that people can hear and say, "Oh man, Claire's reaching me. She understands where I'm coming from, and is my person. Is that person that I feel like I can align with." We all have different people. It is whatever can help get you along the journey further.
Yeah.
Fantastic, right? Like you said.
So many
So
tools out
yeah,
there,
right.
so many tools, and some tools speak to some people and some tools won't. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. More of us out there talking about this and bringing forward ways to help and share our story or share our experience, and
Hmm.
knowing that we've succeeded. If I can do it, I mean, geez, you can do it. Trust me. But it depends. Every person will be attracted towards a certain tool. It's not everybody's got the perfect solution for everyone.
Right.
um, but I believe that the simpler, more attainable, easy to apply, easiest to apply on a daily basis. If we bring the focus back to leadership,
Yep.
leaders, we're busy, we don't have time. I mean, all the objections I've heard, all of them.
Hmm.
But the certain tools you can do. I'm literally being mindful now. I'm practicing mindfulness, and I'm not closing my eyes and meditating for the past 22. What is it? 22 minutes now. We're on this podcast. I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm fully
Yeah.
present, but I'm
Yes.
not in fight or flight. I'm breathing every now and again. I'm focusing on your background, your eyeglasses. I'm being mindful. I'm here. I'm present. I'm already charging up. I'm already in. Basically lighting up my prefrontal cortex. So I'm able to be mindful and build that energy and recharge while I'm doing something as easy as a podcast, just being online talking to you now. I don't have to stop everything
Yeah.
and take 30 minutes. Like, no, who has time? I know this is our life now. But the more you do that, the more you will take time. You will make time because you
Yeah.
see the benefits. You see that it's changing your life. You see it's changing your energy. You see that people around you are asking questions, going, "What are you doing? What pill are you taking? Or
Mhm.
what's happening?" Like
Yeah,
what are you
absolutely.
practicing? Give me the secret. Your energy, your aura, your the way you show up. It just basically lights up the room. And it's not a surprise. There's certain leaders, they walk in the room, they have this thing, and you're like, man, I mean,
Yes.
these people like gone through things and worked on themselves and
Yes.
and really applied and worked hard to be who they are right now, who they became.
Yeah, being authentically who they are. And I'd love to get you a little bit of that on the podcast here, Claire, because we're breaking down the neuro based science that you're talking about, leadership training, you rewire our brains, but then that leads into you help as we would talk previously before, but to help design some decision making frameworks to have clarity in all of this and speak a little bit more about your how you do what you do at MS in guiding. So when people come to you and now, okay, like you said, maybe we're starting to open the mindset and the
Right.
possibilities of what could be. Walk through the process of what it looks like along this journey or when they're
Yeah,
working with.
it's a great question. And there's so many ways to answer it because, I mean, we have 85 plus
Hmm.
uh, workshops,
Tools and
activities
reason,
that
all
we
these things.
combine.
Yeah.
So what I always say is that I'm a true believer that you always build a box around what the client needs. There's no specific formula. There's a way. There's knowledge, of course. There's experience, etc. But for instance, I'll give you one example. I had a team come to me about a month ago, and we just finished the trainings a couple of weeks ago. And it's a new team, and they wanted to really stop working in silos. They really want to communicate better. They want to understand each other's behavior and be a bit more mindful and be more efficient and collaborative moving forward. Because I mean, they're going through something big, growth, etc.
Mhm.
And simply put, I mean, it had to be virtual, so it was limited a little bit. But we talked about basically we got them to do a lot of assessments. Those assessments are like 3 minutes. So
Hmm.
we got to find out what are the main ways each team member sabotages themselves.
Yep.
Some of them are controllers, some of them were pleasers, some of them were hyper rational, some were we all have different ways, and we all have saboteurs, by the way. So understanding their behavior and how they're reacting, it already took a huge chunk of stress off of their shoulder, because everybody now was talking openly about, hey, we're not all
Yeah.
perfect. This is how I react. And when you come and tell me this is how I'm going to react, because I've been doing this all my life. So we humanize, everything and the situations, and it becomes lighter. So the idea is to create that psychological safety as a facilitator, and get people to be self-aware of what's happening, so they can develop empathy and be a bit more emotionally intelligent, so we can communicate, collaborate, work together, and break
Yep.
down those silos. Now that's like, I really touched a little bit on the how. I mean, obviously I'll need hours, but
Yes.
one other thing we did like we finished with an activity called the team totem that we do, and where it's all about self recognizing each other's strength. So it's
Mhm.
really your colleagues selecting your totem, meaning your animal totem and your quality totem. And what that does is you're literally telling your colleagues, I see you as a leader. I see you as courageous, or I see you as, and it's a playful way. And people really
Mm.
dig deep. It really helped them a lot. And we have post workshop sessions as well coming up. So, because at the end of the day, which is great, now everybody's like, okay, we know what we need to do. We're good. We're equipped with the tools. But now what? You need to reassess. How did we shift? How was our level of awareness go up? So
Mhm.
I talk a lot about positive intelligence, with the ability of the brain to work for you and not against you. And we want to bring that positive, it's a PQ quotient, like it's positive intelligence quotient, IQ,
Mhm.
EQ, same thing. We want to bring it up to a certain level. So, because once it's at a higher level, that means our brain is working for us 75% of the time, or more than
Yes.
less, right? So we don't circle back down, spiral back down. So the
Mhm.
idea is to build that, build the EQ, build the PQ, build all the Qs besides the IQ. We can't build it. We're born with it. And by doing these post sessions, we regroup, we reinforce, we keep building, and we measure and see how
Mhm.
we progressed, as well as see what are our challenges. We didn't know how to deal with this thing. So then we can all talk about it. I can give some tools. It's all about hands-on, because theory is great, but if you're not applying it in your day-to-day and in specific situation with the client, then it's useful to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And one last thing quickly,
Yes.
one of the most popular workshops that I love doing, one is with music. We really help people find their voice as a team, called Innovation
Yes.
That Rhymes. Again, no time to go in detail. And the other one is Lego series play. So at MSP Team Building, we really try to bring in very creative ways to learn and grow, because the creative side of the brain, the right side of the brain, is really where we thrive. And of course, we're so much in our analytical brain, our left
Yes.
brain, that most of the time we're not really tapping into that full potential by balancing both. So
Yep.
the idea is really to be able to not only be in our analytical brain, but balance both by doing certain ways and bringing certain workshops to open up the conversation, and find and understand there's so many tools out there to help us navigate this thing called getting along at work, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and that's again, Claire, why I wanted to have you here, because you bring a different perspective, and I think it's so important. Is if you're a business owner or even a leader or a department manager, and you're like, man, I don't know where to go. Here to go. You're listening to the podcast. You're listening to Claire. And by the way, again, you guys can connect with Claire on LinkedIn. We're connected there as well. We'll put all the links to MSP and whatnot in our show notes. But I want folks to be able to hear other voices and saying, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a possibility. I didn't even know that you could do this workshop or create this space." And I love collaborating with folks like this, Claire, because I know I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the tools. I love to be able to bring in folks like yourself, even if I'm working with a client or company, and saying, "Hey, Claire has got a unique perspective in a way that has worked and unlocked." And I liked how you said this on your LinkedIn. You're saying we build team building. We're being very proactive in how we build them. Maybe that's your engineering coming in there, but
Yeah,
how
we
we
don't
do
hit
this,
each other,
right?
we build teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you know what, David, I really appreciate what you just said because I'm a true believer of that too. And that's why we just clicked. I
Yeah.
knew that I've always looked for collaborators. I've always looked
Mhm,
for other people that do what I do, but
mhm,
differently. You cannot
mhm.
do something exactly like the other person. I mean, it's
Yes.
impossible, right? We're all
Mhm,
different. And I love that because it's exactly how I work. If I find that my client needs, I have the base, what I do, but I'm like, yeah, but you need an expert in this that's done this with a specific situation. Like, I
mhm,
would love to reach out to somebody like you, David,
mhm.
or somebody else like in our partners roster.
Yes.
Because why? Because that's what my client needs, right?
Mhm.
You put the client
Yes.
first because we're here to help. And if we're
Yep.
not bringing in the right method, like we said earlier, there's so
Mhm.
many ways to do things, but maybe that's not the right way. Maybe this will appeal better to a
Yep.
certain person. And this is where the strength is of a network, especially with coaches, leadership experts, and we all need the help that we can get, right? So
Absolutely.
thank you for saying
Absolutely.
that.
No, absolutely, Claire. And I hope as you're listening to this, because sometimes I feel like um, you might try to do this within your organ. Maybe speak to this a little bit, Claire. Sometimes people say, I watched a video or read something, and they try to do it on their own with limited success in the organization for different reasons. Speak to it as you're coming out as an objective third party, Claire, a little bit about
Mm,
that relationship with your clients, because you have a different interest, if you will, than maybe some others do, and how you work with clients.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, we don't always have all the solutions.
Mm,
And sometimes, you know what I find, David, I find sometimes that maybe what I offer is wow for certain people, but for others, like, I don't understand what you're saying. You know, I mean, I can explain it in so many ways. They're just not ready. They're not
mhm.
ready because it's pretty, you need to be at a certain level where you're really looking for something, searching and wanting to transform or wanting
Yes.
to change, being so fed up of being that
Mm,
person that is not serving you anymore.
yes.
Um, that your brain now is open to that opportunity because it's
Mhm.
looking for it, and this we call the
Yes.
RAS. It's that red car that you
Oh,
find
yes.
everywhere when you decide I want a red car. That's your RAS. It's going to filter the information, the data that is out there. So if your brain, your RAS, is not filtering the right data, and this is not what you're looking for, you have to look for it. This is why I said it starts with the decision. Then it will just be presented to you.
Yes.
Magic. But that's the brain doing its thing. So
I know we're getting into the podcast here, Claire, but you've hit on so many great points. I hope people that are listening, maybe if you've been looking or leaning, and now you just said this is your red car moment. You're like, oh my goodness, here it is again. Now here's Claire. I know, Claire, you're based in Canada, but you can serve all over the place. Help so many
yeah,
different
we
people in the
we're
U.S.
we're we have our company in the US, and
Yeah.
we're also in Canada. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, virtually, obviously globally, like everybody
Yes.
else. But yeah, we have teams across Canada, we have teams across the US. We serve both territories.
Yeah, so don't but I wanted to say that because I wanted people to know that, hey, when you go connect with Claire, see that she's helping people all over the world, really. And this podcast is another way that we can reach hopefully more of you. Um, a- Claire, as we're wrapping it up here, and we've shared a lot of different ideas and thoughts. So if somebody's leaning into this, they haven't dipped their toe fully, but like, okay, I'm maybe you got me in this mindfulness thing, got me thinking a little bit more. What would you say? What would you encourage our listeners a step that they could do today to explore, consider,
Yeah,
um,
my
based on our
God.
conversation?
How do I narrow it down to one
I
thing?
know there's so much. Yeah, this one. I'm not going to hold you. This is the penultimate one, but just like something that comes to mind for you.
Yeah, maybe if I could give one tip, I challenge the listeners to take maybe for one day or maybe take 30 minutes and just be mindful of their thoughts. If that's one thing you can do, write 3 thoughts that just keep coming back, and maybe just write it down on a piece of paper, and just observe these thoughts. I'm like, okay, my God, I'm always telling myself, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. I don't know. Example.
Yeah.
Then say, okay, is this really serving me? Is this really how I feel? I'm actually not that tired, or and then just reverse it, change it to what you want to happen in your life. So change it into the positive thing. So bring up your brain waves to the positive level, and change it. And then every time you have that thought, try to be mindful and just switch it around and repeat it. You literally, with one thought, can change a lot in your day to day. So hopefully that serves you. And that's like
Yes.
really, really great hands on tool that I do. Like, I should stop saying, I procrastinate, So
Yes.
it's ridiculous. So again, focus on your thoughts and be mindful of your thoughts, because your thoughts is basically what you're feeding your brain, and what your brain is being fed is what's going to basically filter the data that is around you and make your life exactly what you're telling it to do. So you want that red car, it's going to bring you the red car. So make sure that what you're asking for is really what's serving you and not actually doing harm. So watch those thoughts for sure.
Oh man. Thank you so much, Claire. It's a
Thank
true
you.
pleasure having you here on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Everybody, hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. Apply what just Claire just shared with you. That's gold. Of course, love when you leave comments and feedback. We'll make sure Claire gets that. Follow along, get connected with her in her team, the MSP. Subscribe, like, of course, we appreciate that as well. Come back again and listen to our next episode of the podcast. Be well, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of those things. Take good care of yourself. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be well. Bye, everybody.